Hello, Sharpies. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm Tom Cunningham,
I'm Jermaine Taylor.
and this is Steel Sharpens Steel. So, uh, Anthony Turner, who has three comments already, or if you're in Inglorious Bastards, we learn that it's three instead of three, but now four. Uh, we want to make sure that everybody wishes our good friend Anthony Turner happy
Happy
birthday. Happy birthday,
birthday.
Sharpies. We thank you so much for being one of our most loyalist viewers. Captain comments super fast on the clicks. Anthony Turner, congratulations.
It's a positive force on my timeline, and I really appreciate it, Anthony.
A positive force. You're a positive motivating force within my life. And if you ever feel the need to be a Sharpie, let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Just let me know. So this week, we are happy to have everybody here. I am representing the city of Philadelphia. I'm not an Eagles fan, but Jerry Lorenzo of Fear of God has an NBA contract and he makes these hoodies. And this is the only hoodie in his entire line that is in my colors. So I copped the hoodie, and it also is appropriate because Philadelphia 76ers, Philadelphia Eagles, plus our international headquarters are in Philly. So I'm feeling extra Noop adjacent, extra Jalen Hurts, given the 1911 love, although he's in another organization. But it was a big, humongous day in a game that was less than exciting. But I thought that the game was good, not from the perspective of, oh, it's exciting that they keep going back and forth. I thought it was super cool because it displayed the utter dismantling of the Chiefs. And Mahomes Mahomes was tough too. It was
Yeah.
it was a shame. And also, I don't know about you, Jermaine. Are you a person who watches the Super Bowl every year?
I'm from Texas. It's kind of required that
Yeah,
I
it is
do,
kind of
even
required. Yeah.
though if I don't have a dog in
Even
the fight, I
though
just got to watch it.
I was about to say, if you're from Texas, you definitely haven't had a dog in the
You just
fight
have
in
to
a
just
while.
know something about it. It was interesting. I was looking at the cutaways to him, Mahomes, every time the camera would cut to him, and he would just sit on the sideline, be just pretty
Yeah,
much
he
doing that.
he made he made a point of trying to look cheerful
Yeah.
when they cut to him, but then in the aftermath, where there were just other photos being taken of him, you could see he had
Yeah.
the. It was
Yeah.
funny to me.
Yeah.
Not for the least of which reasons is that the Cheeto made a point of saying that he liked the Chiefs because Mahomes' wife is a huge MAGA fan, a huge Trump fan.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go for the Chiefs. Blah blah blah. And then of course he ended up leaving, but not before that Super Bowl. Sharpies in the chat, please give me a thumbs up emoji if you like the halftime show. You can give me some emoji face that indicates that you were nonplussed, or you can give me a thumbs down emoji to show me that you didn't like the halftime show. So before I give my review of the halftime show, I want to ask Sharpies to just drop in the chat. Hey, Shay, please drop in the chat what you think, because I definitely have some feelings about it, and I'd like to know. Thank you, Shay.
Hello,
Um,
Shay.
Anybody else? Gail, thank you. Good.
Are we getting thumbs up?
We are getting thumbs ups.
Okay.
We got two thumbs up. The only comments we have so far are two thumbs up, which I think is
Okay,
great.
cool.
In the intermediary point, I'm just going to put up the cover graphic. So I took the A minor A, and I decided I was going to make a T minor um, on a bed of Cheetos
Clever.
with orange stones, because based on how things are going with Trump and the real president, who I call Felon Musky instead of Elon Musk. he is the minor player in his own game. It's kind of ridiculous. Hey, Summer Cutie, I don't know who you are. Shay very kindly put her Shay put her name in parentheses just so that we would know who you are, since we have these different persona on the YouTubeage of it all. But I will say that, in my opinion, from the national anthem by Baptiste to having two black quarterbacks to having Kendrick's halftime show with Samuel Jackson, Uncle Samuel Jackson, this to me was by far the most blackety black Super Bowl I think I have ever seen. Like, it's just, it was just incredible. And I was so pleased for Jalen Hurts. I couldn't believe some of the turnovers. I couldn't believe that Mahomes got sacked 6 times. I couldn't believe that the kicker dude, somebody said, the super Christian Catholic kicker dude who came and to a commencement and said, you know, I know despite your degrees, I know the thing you're most excited about is going home and making babies. Somebody said he probably would have done the team better if he had gone home and taken care of babies.
I forgot about him in our controversy at the top of last year. Wow, that colors it even more. Whoa.
It does. It does. I thought that, sound issues aside, because when he started the halftime show, it was very clear to me that the sound was off in some way. Mm-hmm. I couldn't really hear the bass. And I said, well, maybe they're trying to make sure people can understand his lyrics, but it just didn't hit the way I expected it to hit to kick off a hip hop show and to kick off a show by Kendrick, who thankfully was very dynamic. Somebody said Kendrick put up more yards on this halftime show than the Chiefs in the whole game. Which I thought was hilarious and accurate. He used that entire stage, the game controller setup, which was amazing. And I only read after the fact, because I didn't notice in real time, that they said that the sequence, because it was set up like a PlayStation controller, and the sequence of the lights flashing was a maximum armor, like basically ultimate health in Grand Theft Auto. So he zished himself up by playing the sequence of things and then kicked off his thing. Everything from the Black Grand National being on the stage, they had to source all over the place to even find one. And then in order to pull off the gag where all of the dancers were coming out of it like it was a clown car, now the car is undrivable. But they went and found one. Yeah. And they used it. And it was amazing. The use of Sam Jackson dressed as Uncle Sam, which of course turned Megyn Kelly's head. You know, Uncle Sam is white. Girl, Uncle Sam is pretend.
Kind of like Santa Claus.
He's not real, ma'am. Yeah. And I get it. When he was depicted, of course, the default was going to be that he was white. But he also is not real. And the man playing Uncle Sam is Sam Jackson, and he's an uncle. So let it go. Of course, he was making an indictment on the state of our country, but also he's an uncle who is named Sam. And he can dress in a Halloween costume just like anybody else, including you, Megyn Kelly. You can dress like what
you want to be down at Halloween. You could be Diana Ross for Halloween.
Yeah, without blackface. You really can. You just put on a black wig and an expensive sequin dress and say, I love you. And everybody will know what you're doing. Everybody will know what you're doing. Just brush that hair. Reach out and touch somebody. Everybody will know. It's fine, Megyn. But also, Diana Ross is a real person who happens to still be living. And Uncle Sam is a cartoon for posters. That's what that was. The other white people who have masqueraded as Uncle Sam, also not Uncle Sam. So maybe you can calm down on that. I thought the choreography was amazing. I thought when he popped up on that peekaboo thing, I thought that was hilarious. When SZA came out and SZA sang, she sang. She did an amazing job.
Yeah. I
thought everything about it, except for the audio problems at the very beginning, was incredible. How they spelled out "game over," or I think it was "game over" at the end after he said "turn this TV off," and then it also said something at the beginning that I can't remember. But the whole thing was just absolutely amazing to me. And a lot of people say, "Oh, Rihanna." I said, yes, people probably knew the Rihanna songs more because Rihanna has a lot of hits and she's got a lot of danceable hits and she's got a lot of things. But Rihanna was pregnant, so she wasn't really performing all that much. Everybody else was doing the heavy lifting on the performing. And other than the fact that she got in that floating stage thing at the end, I just didn't think the show was as meaningful as Kendrick's. I loved this show. And not for the least of which reasons is that I do not like Drake. And when I saw it wasn't even the medallion first. I saw the flag that had the little A and the kids reaching up and pointing at the little A. I was like, oh my God. And then when I saw the medallion, the chunky medallion, I was like, oh, this is going to be a show.
Yeah.
And it was a show to me. I think, what you tell me, Jermaine, Dre had that super big LA show with all the cameos. I thought that was really cool. 200 dancers crip walking on the Super Bowl field. I thought that was really cool. But for me, this show was just very meaningful and impactful. What do you say?
Well, I will say this. Those 12 to 13 minutes were dense. So much to the point to where I wasn't able to tell the entire story until that I had to rely on a lot of people's other perspectives and what they saw to put it all together, because there was just so much that I missed. So much that I missed. It's interesting. I was hearing a lot of the immediate takeaway was that it was boring. And I heard that and I saw that a lot. Boring, because they just wanted to party. They kept saying, well, Lil Wayne would have brought the party, yada, yada, yada. And immediately that didn't sit well with me, because I understand the moment this country is in. And because of what he lyricked about, because of all the imagery, all the metaphor, he was pretty much able to tell the world what is on Black people's minds right now. And that was the perfect time for the world to see that, because we've been quiet since November 5, 2024. We really have. We've been healing ourselves, moving amongst our own, taking care of our own. But people are like, well, how come Black people aren't protesting? Why they're doing this and that? Oh, we showed up for this and this. And Kendrick pretty much gave them the narrative as to what we've been thinking, how we've been moving. And I appreciated that. So thanks be to the universe or to God or whoever you pray to give Rock Nation the fortitude to give him that invitation to do it. Because any other artist wouldn't have met the moment. And I appreciated that. Yeah, like I said, it took, looking at different people's perspective, like the whole Game Boy thing, the whole controller. I didn't pick it up to maybe Tuesday. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Because there was just so much. I didn't see, when I was watching it, I didn't see that shake. It was just so much going on. I just didn't see it. Of course, the stuff that was in your face, like Serena, I got that immediately. Some of the other, the flag, the Black bodies making the flag, that was quick. But some of the other things that he sort of intimated to, I was like, look at that. So I was kind of like putting it all together, and I'm appreciating even more and more and more, and now in hindsight. So I just really enjoyed it because of the imagery and saying, more politically and socially. And the guy's a genius. I see why he's a Pulitzer Prize winning guy, because he's just heavy on lyrics and metaphor, and I love to listen to language like that. So
it's funny. One of the critiques was that from a certain segment of the population was that I just couldn't understand anything that he was saying, and I was like, and for those people, would you have understood Lil Wayne? Because quite frankly, Lil Wayne sounds like he's having a colonoscopy when he performs these days. It's just like, and I don't care if you're from Louisiana. I think it's fine, you know, if there had been space for there to be one of those bands, but I mean, I guess you could have in the beginning of Not Like Us, where they have that horn section that Mustard sampled. That actually could have been something where you could have had one of those
second line. Yeah.
The second line band.
Yeah.
You could have had them like on the sidelines playing that or something, or somewhere on the stage. That would have been kind of a cool shout out to New Orleans. But the comment that kind of stirred me, because I agree, the audience, until Not Like Us, or, well, I guess technically All the Stars kind of started it, because it was a song that more people recognized because of the Black Panther soundtrack and fourth top grossing movie of all time, all that. But those people who were paying $5,000 something a seat, most of those people were not Black people who were Kendrick Lamar fans.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it a buck. But when you look at the videos of people who were at watch parties watching the performance and how they were screaming, and if you are the type of person who looks at the reactors who always have a commentary on things that are happening in hip hop, and you watch them watching the performance, everybody who was Black that I saw who was I could watch their reactions, not people who were commenting, because there were some haters, but the people who I watched the show. T-Pain, all the Black people in those audiences were having the time of their lives. And there was some big party, probably in Los Angeles, where it was like 300 people watching, and the game was projected on a wall at some restaurant or whatever. And for the entire halftime show, that crowd was lit. And so that's where we are.
Yeah.
It was for the people he said it was going to be for.
Right.
Point blank, period. That's what he said. The revolution is about to be televised. You got the right time and the wrong guy.
Indeed.
Everything about it. When he said, "Hey, Frank," and he turns and looks right at him. Like, yeah. It was just a very inarguably the most meaningful, the most directed, the most intentional performance. Now, Prince. You got Prince as a halftime show. I don't know that there's ever been a halftime musical performance that was as engaging as Prince, because it's Prince. Like, by the time Michael Jackson had his thing, Michael Jackson had the faded skin. Michael Jackson was bigger than the universe. Michael Jackson, you know, it was a whole lot of him standing still for 25 seconds while people just screamed his name and stuff. So yes, from a pageant perspective, Michael for sure. Prince, definitely. Prince still at the very... See, my hands can't even go high enough out of frame.
He's number one in my book.
Of course. I mean, let's keep it a buck. But in terms of Prince came out to perform and play hits and be the genius. Kendrick came out and said, I have 13 minutes on the largest television audience ever, 126 million people. I have the largest television platform. I'm not getting paid for this. And so y'all are damn sure going to listen to what I have to say. And he said it. And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was absolutely amazing. And there were those who got it, and there were those who didn't. And if you're not a fan, if you were just trying to have the music wash over you and you wanted to sit up and you know, crip walk while you were holding your chicken wings or whatever, that's on you. I get it. I enjoyed it. And when Serena came, when they cut to Serena, man, listen, the room I was watching in went up. Went up. Yeah. And it wasn't even Purple Rain. That's right, Anthony. So I thought it was amazing. Every time the Chiefs messed up, I cackled. I really enjoyed it. I just enjoyed the game completely.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't. All of y'all didn't weigh in on it, but that's okay. Shay hated the jeans, so
I didn't like the jeans. I actually have a pair of those.
Well, and so the jeans. I will say this: the jeans made him look shorter to me. He's not a tall man. And the
No.
jeans kind of made him look shorter. And I was never a fan of bell bottoms. And I grew up in the era where bell bottoms was a thing. When I was a kid, I actually owned bell bottoms. I wouldn't rock bell bottoms today, but
They're calling them flare nowadays. They're not bell bottoms, they're flare. Thought I'd make that point.
okay, I wouldn't wear flare bottoms either.
Well, if you go
Or bell
searching for
flares.
them, look up flare.
I
And they
wouldn't
look
play.
cute with the platform shoe, and they're really cute. I'll
It's
send you a
that's
selfie.
because that's a throwback, Jermaine. If you're wearing a platform shoe and flare bottoms, then that's a throwback. For Halloween, yes. For a 70s themed disco party, yes. But I'm just saying that's a Lenny Kravitz rock star move, and that's fine.
When will I see you again? Because I'm gonna rock the look just for you, so you can be like, "Oh, okay, that's how you do it."
Yeah,
Because,
it was Olympic gold, Anthony, and
yeah,
that was the thing. A lot of people commented that the extra shade was that there were two of Drake's exes on stage. Serena was literally crip walking with Drake's biggest op. But that's because Drake brought Serena into it. So it made sense. He literally in Not Like Us, you better not mess with Serena. Like, because he made a comment about her husband being a groupie.
yeah.
So what does that make any woman who's ever been with you, Drake?
The petty was pettying.
Oh, it was petty. It was super petty now. So that's kind of enough. That's 22 minutes more or less on the Super Bowl show. I thought it was incredible. I really had a good time. I had my Ninja Slushie out. We had some Jose Cuervo 1800 margaritas and some hurricanes later on. Ninja Slushie on point. I just bought a Ninja Crispy actually, and the Ninja Crispy is crispying too. So Ninja, their last two products, I haven't liked everything. Their blender was trash, but these last two things that they've done, the slushy is a good slushy machine. You just have to watch your ratios. And if you are a person who likes a more strong drink, you definitely need to pour a floater in the bottom before you, or a floater on
You
top.
something at your house, I'm assuming?
Say what? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I took it to somebody else's house to host. So I don't know what you want me to say, Jermaine. I didn't know you was going.
We're just co-hosts, people. We're just co-hosts.
Oh my gosh. So, oh Lord. So Shay, and not okay. Listen, Shay. I already said the man is short. You ain't got to dog him out like that. And
Shay,
and Drake,
I promise you, the look works. It's a flex.
Listen, it's fine. It's not something I'm gonna rock. I don't care about that. I would like to talk because it is something that is somewhat disturbing to me. Tulsi Gabbard has been confirmed by the Senate narrowly, but with no Democrats supporting her.
None.
As the director of national intelligence. Even Mitch McConnell. It was a bridge too far for Mitch McConnell to support Tulsi Gabbard. Now, it seems like because Mitch McConnell was also the sole Republican vote to not vote for RFK Jr., it seems like Mitch is in his I'm going to respectfully object era. For whatever reason, we couldn't get Susan Collins and Murkowski on the Tulsi Gabbard thing. So I guess they just decided to close ranks, and because they're closing ranks and Mitch is never running again, Mitch says, I already told you how I feel about this fool, and so I'm going to vote my conscience. There are some things I may support, but some of these folks I'm not going to support. And so he has, to his credit, not supported them. Now, most of that is a stunt because he knew that they were going to be confirmed, because he knew that the votes were there. But at least he has his vote on the record as not supporting either of these candidates, which I consider, well, I don't think there's anybody who really has been worthy. I guess you could say Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. That's an inoffensive pick. But, you know, from Hegseth to Gabbard to RFK to Linda McMahon to all of these people, it's a nightmare. it's literally a nightmare. And Linda was facing questioning today. Did you see any of the questioning of McMahon today, Jermaine?
I did, and I have some very, very strong opinions on that. Okay, you
Then
remember
take
in the very beginning, and someone asked if she had ever been an educator, and that she was certified because she substitute taught in the 70s and 80s, so she thought that made her credentially certified to be a teacher. That's where it all started dismantling for me, because before that, I thought she had some sort of education background. She was in the classroom at some point in life as a certified teacher. No, she's only been a substitute teacher in the late 70s and 80s, so she thought that was enough to make her credentially certified to be a teacher and have this position to begin with. They kept asking her, in particular, this one proposal to withdraw funding from schools if they should have ethnic groups or even, curriculum centered on minority, issues. She wouldn't answer the question. Senator Murphy kept hammering. She would not answer the question. So that pretty much tells us what she's going to do. So I feel like under her, there is not going to be any sort of we'll probably hear it the most Harriet Tubman and Martin Luther King. And be it. Only because they're almost like folklore now.
Well, she made a point of saying that she wasn't sure what would the class be about.
Yeah.
What would be the purpose of the class? She was trying to hedge and say that, based on the current guidance or whatever, that if the class were about XYZ, then perhaps it wouldn't fall, it wouldn't be appropriate. And so, again, to your point, she just a lie.
Yeah. If it's not I Have a Dream or the Underground Railroad, our students are not going to know anything about it.
And maybe not even the Underground Railroad. Certainly know Nat Turner.
Is that too radical?
Certainly know John Brown.
Yeah.
No, it's
Frederick
not
Douglass. Yeah, because he was a Republican. So Frederick Douglass, let me add him. Yeah.
Oh,
and
well, and he was also married to a white woman, right? So
yeah. So just as an aside, do you know that he was about your complexion, Frederick Douglass?
Was he?
Yeah.
You never see that in the depiction.
You never see that depicted, but he was a very fair-skinned man. But all the images we see of him, darker, they're pretty much in black and white. But he was a fair-skinned man. So I don't know how that came about, but yeah, he was. It's interesting how we don't know that.
I honestly didn't. I always considered him to be more like your complexion, based on what I see. Well, I mean, that is very. And it also perhaps explains a little bit more about why he experienced the level of success that he did. The more adjacent you were
to his proximity,
calmness. And it's very interesting. One of my favorite podcasts is Criminal. And it's Happy Black History Month. Sorry, we didn't do this last week. So Happy Black History Month. One of my favorite podcasts is Criminal, and last week's episode was about Robert Smalls, who was an Emancipation era enslaved person who literally hijacked a Confederate ship, masquerading as the captain, took the ship over, took control over the ship, and then used it to aid the Union in the war. And then after the war, went into public office and started businesses and all these sorts of things. Ultimately, as many things in the Reconstruction era that pertain to Black excellence, of course, things were stolen and taken from him, and businesses and people were run out of town. This is not the distant past, just so that we're clear. This is great-grandparents of some people that are still living that experienced this. The Tulsa Massacre was in the 1900s. So this is not forever ago. And the very fact that people don't understand what DEI is really about, it takes sometimes a clever person to replace some text in an old cartoon. So I'm just going to put this up on screen. This is a Calvin and Hobbes adjusted cartoon. DEI initiatives were not put in place to ensure lower qualified minorities could get hired instead of more highly qualified white people. It was put in place to ensure lower qualified white people were not hired instead of more highly qualified minorities. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Hell yeah.
That's what it really is. And if you don't understand that, it's just like you see these videos, everybody's coming out of their racist roach traps these days. And there was this guy who showed a room full of Black medical students or Black graduates who were cheering. And he says, is this the group of people that you would want operating on you when their admission standards were lower than everybody else's? And I had to say, look, Chad, a lot of these people that make it, especially into the Ivy Leagues, the vast majority of people who get the benefit of not having to meet standards are nepotism babies whose parents were in the institution and were rich, and so they get a legacy entry, or people who have some other sort of access that is unrelated to their actual qualifications. So would I rather have Sean Duffy, who is pictured from his The Real World days, standing buck naked in front of a damn window, holding a towel to his crotch as he grinded and pretended like he was a Chippendale dancer? Is that the person I would have as Secretary of Transportation when the United States is experiencing the first airline crashes in 16 years? I got to fly next week, folks. And people talking about Black pilots and all this. I'm not worried about the Black pilots. I'm worried about the 2 air traffic controllers apparently they have at every airport in this damn country now. That's the thing that freaks me out. So you call it DEI, and you notice they've been super silent on the DEI of the Reagan National crash because nobody involved was DEI.
This country has done, I mean, the fact that it's lived all these years, the way they have marketed Black, anything that they want to just mire in public opinion, they put our faces in front of it. And that narrative is recycled generation after generation after generation. We prove them wrong, but it's still something that is like a default in people's minds. I experience it almost every day. I'll come in with an adjustment. It'll be second guessed. And then my white counterpart will come with the same adjustment and it's received. And I know, and that's on a micro level, but it's just so worked into the conscience of just about every aspect of our society. I don't know as to how it can be done away with. I just don't. Because when we show them the opposite, they still fall back to it. So I don't know how to how do you get rid of that, Tom? How do you?
Well, I don't think there is a wholesale solution. I think, there have been episodes of TV shows that show scenario where like a Black doctor saves your life and you were cussing them out. You didn't want them to work on you, but then they end up saving you and your mother comes in and slaps you in the face and say that beautiful Black doctor just saved your ungrateful life. It might take those personal interactions. I think it's a lot easier to hold those opinions when you don't have interactions with a broad swath of people, which is partially why diversity is important. If you can, generationally, in my dad's era, my dad was the first Black officer at Ford Credit. He was the assistant treasurer of Ford Credit in the 70s. He was the first Black officer at Ford Motor. And that was when I was in 4th grade.
This is in Texas?
No. This was we lived in Virginia. His last deployment was at the Pentagon. And then we moved from Virginia to Detroit.
Okay.
And he worked in commercial paper for Ford Motor Company. And that was 77?
Yeah.
The first Black officer, and eventually as he built up decades in the thing, and they had discussions about diversity. It wasn't called DEI at that time, but it was about diversity. And he was on a panel within the company talking about this issue and why it was important. And the question was asked, why do you think these diversity sort of initiatives are important? I think affirmative action was the buzzword back then. And the guy said, well, we sell cars to everybody. And we want people to feel like our company is a company that sees people. My dad said, I mean, that's fine, but that's not the real reason. The real reason is that sometimes the best person for the job is not a white man. And if you don't believe that and you can't convince people that that's true, sometimes you're going to miss out on the best.
Yeah.
Because if the best for the job is not a white man, then somebody who is the best needs to feel like your company sees them. And that's the story of diversity. Until you start dealing with people who are competent and capable, and it's impossible to not be convinced of their excellence.
Yeah.
You're never going to make that change. And it's taken a long time. Remember, everybody who was from Europe was not considered white.
Yeah, that didn't happen until they got over here.
Yeah, that was a relatively new invention, and people
Mhm.
began to rally around it. Even the Italians, Jewish people, the Irish, they were not white. There was no whiteness. And
Yeah.
so it was only in competition with people who were more uniformly dark before intermarriage and rape, Thomas Jefferson, that the colors of the rainbow, the Creole caramelization of Black folks really started to happen. When everybody was straight from West Africa or from the islands, it was easy to say, you're not like me, and so I need to align with people who are closer to me, no matter what their accent sounded like. We need to rally together under this banner of whiteness. And Joy has spoken on this quite a bit during the show, so I'm not going to revisit it. But the point is that that's a relatively new invention. And since it is relatively new, it still had 100+ years to fester. And so there is no overnight solution. The overnight solution certainly wasn't Obama, as some people try to proclaim. So it's just going to take us being who we are. And you made a good point, and I want to revisit it on the theme of, again, leopards eating faces, which is one of our favorite things on the show this season. And so it's time for our leopards eating faces segment. You made it a point this week, which was about how Latinos are now on IG, on Facebook Reels, some of them asking where Black folks are because some Latinos voted or supported BLM. And to their credit, some, especially Latinas, some of them are saying, no, you need to get off the Black folks because they supported the candidate who would have protected your rights. It was 40% of Latinos who voted against their own self-interest because of the machismo of Trump and the lies he told you, and you thought you were going to be safe because it's only going to be the criminals. And they didn't think in their heads that if you are here undocumented, that can be considered criminal.
Yeah.
And you got wives crying about their husbands. You got husbands crying about their wives. You got girls and boys crying about their boyfriends and girlfriends, grandparents, uncles, aunties. Your food is not being picked because people are scared. Some of them may have self-deported and just crossed the border in California. That's relatively easy to do. But even the people who work in maquiladoras, which is the factories that are right on the border between Tijuana and San Diego or Chula Vista, even some of those folks don't want to come in. Because if they're trying to come in, it's always easy to cross back, but don't nobody want to be harassed about coming in, or you come into work and ICE shows up and ICE starts trying to sweep people up. And it's like, look, I'm on a daily work visa. Like, what is your problem?
Right.
So it's beginning to affect things. And the Latinos and Black folks are not trying to hear you, bro. Like, some of us aren't. It's this. This is what we fix it to do.
I would add to that, Tom, that we are seeing, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but the protests that we are seeing, especially the one that I was close to, they had a couple of Sundays ago downtown LA, the ICE raids.
Yep.
They're being conducted differently. The police, the force, there's kind of like letting them do what they do. There's no confrontation. There's no intimidation. Whereas if we were there, you would have to imagine the energy would just be a little bit more combative on their part. Why? Because they are trying to get something out of us. They're trying to get a reaction out of us so it'll spread and more will go out. And then they will have that whole narrative that they've been looking for to build the case of martial law. And we have noticed that. So we're going to let them pretty much handle the reins because we don't want to be the sacrifice, if we were to join them at this point, because I feel like they're looking to instigate us. And that's the quickest way you possibly could.
I mean,
my opinion.
You can't even have Dominicans claim the blackness within them. That's how alienated they are from the reality of their existence. And so I agree. Anybody who's willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with you. But if there's a single video of you wearing a MAGA hat and celebrating on November 6th about, we're so happy, and now a month and a half later, you're all concerned because Tia is about to be sent to Guantanamo Bay. That's on you, bro. Like, what do you want me to do at this point? He's elected. What is it that we're to do? There just isn't anything that I can do for you. And I think, to your point, first of all, LA was a great place to have this sort of support because Karen Bass was obviously going to allow it. Gavin Newsom is obviously, given how much the California economy requires on migrant workers. And I'm not saying undocumented, I'm just saying migrant workers, people who come in to do the work that Americans will not do.
Right.
It's such a big part of California's economy. California is one of those states that tends to be a lot more forgiving about the whole issue. And so, yes, in Los Angeles, a city named in Spanish, they're going to allow folks to express their concerns and shutting off traffic, all of that. Luckily, I live in the Valley. I didn't have to deal with all that. I just saw it on TV. But the point is that, of course, here it would be an issue. However, if you tried to launch that same scale of protest in Tejas, in Florida, it would be a very different picture. And so they know where it's smart. Arizona, Nevada, a lot of places that used to be Mexico. These days, if you tried to stunt like that in a red state, very, very, very different outcome. But here in California, super blue, sapphire blue California, they were able to express themselves. And that's fine. Please express it. And guess what, folks? Special elections are around the corner. And 2 years from now is the midterms. If you go on ahead and let yourself get suckered, and they're counting on a lot of these Latinos to be moved out of the country so that they can't vote anyway, if any of the undocumented people were actually voting, a questionable premise. But if the people who are here who lost loved ones support the Republican Party in the midterms, you're telling us that you really don't care. All your cries about wanting unity and trying to come together, equity, blah, 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 all of that is just nonsense. That's what you're telling folks, if that's the way you want to go. So I'm going to let y'all have it.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any choice.
Yeah, they made their bed. I just wonder if they're going to excel this whole deportation thing as quickly as possible, because like you said, they want them out before the next election where they can possibly not vote. And, not meant to begin with, that's just a narrative they came up with. But you would understand that more Latinos than ever would be voting on our side this next coming election because of all the stuff that's going on. It's like they're up against the clock.
Well, and I'm looking at you, Dearborn, with the 350,000 Muslim population who either voted for Jill or didn't vote or voted for Trump. I honestly did not understand how, given his rhetoric and given his absolute proximity to Bibi Netanyahu, how any of you thought it would be any different than what it is when you decided you were going to pull the lever for Trump or do a protest vote. Pay attention, Dems. Okay. If you got a cousin in Palestine, pay attention to where he's going to be living in 4 years, or she.
Yeah, that's a perspective that Black folks don't have. And I guess we just have too much experience with them. We just don't believe what they say. We watch what they do. We just don't have that luxury.
Nope.
Yeah.
What you going to do? I mean, it's really that simple. Everybody who I know, and I won't say everybody, because there are definitely some people who were riding on some FBA foolishness or some ADOS stuff. Yeah, exactly. Um, Shay says not even 4 years, in 4 months.
Yeah.
Because who knows what's going on. Bibby is saber rattling about return of hostages, or the ceasefire is going to be null and void. There's lots of things going on in the space about that. But the bottom line is, you all voted, and you can sit here and you can say you hope and that he's only posturing. You have to have a real thought out plan for you to claim that he's posturing.
Right.
You all know that he doesn't have a plan, right? You know that he doesn't actually have a plan. That's your problem, that you trusted it. People talk about, oh, he's playing fourth dimensional chess. He's not even playing tiddlywinks.
No,
He's not
not at all.
playing tic-tac-toe. You had Elon Musk's toddler child telling Donald Trump to hush as he sat behind the Resolute desk, and Elon Musk, of all people, standing in the Oval running a press conference where Trump said almost nothing.
We
When was the last time?
witnessed. I was
Listen,
telling my mom was making a commentary about it. She goes, Jermaine, that just doesn't look right. And I was like, Mama, we are literally witnessing how much this man sold himself and this country for in this moment. I said, we are looking at it in real time. I said, the man has his hat on in the Oval Office. He's dressed properly. He's standing right next to him with his son. I mean, just pretty much over talking people, stealing the freaking spotlight. And Trump barely said, I mean, how many words? I mean, literally. So I felt like we saw literally the transaction that he made a long time ago to win the presidency in that moment.
Well, and think about this. There are lots of times in a press conference in the White House press room. I've been in the White House press room because I've
really?
visited the White House. Yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
have.
Okay.
And also the Eisenhower building. And those get shouty, right? You've got a podium, you've got the seal of the president. Most of the time, when you get invited to the Oval for a press availability, it's for these things where, like, he's signing an executive order, or he's signing a treaty, or, he's signing a bill. It's usually presidential. And you have this guy in slacks and a little tech bro zipper jacket, putting his son on his shoulders as the son beats his head. He's got a hat on. He's laughing because his ill-mannered child is cutting up. It's one thing for John F. Kennedy, for Jack to be pictured under the desk with Daddy. That wasn't a press avail. That was a photograph.
Yeah.
That was captured in a moment that humanized the president. The president's smiling, he's working, and here's Jack crawling underneath the Resolute desk. That's adorable. This is Elon Musk's child saying, shh, shut your mouth.
Shutting mouth is what I heard.
Well, yeah, I leave. This is what this kid is saying. And why is he there? Elon got like 6 baby mamas. Leave the child outside. Let Caitlin hold the baby. Let your chief of staff hold the baby outside the room. Why is the child there? And Elon is towering over Donald Trump. Donald Trump is sitting in the chair looking like he wants his prunes and a Diet Coke. I mean, it is insanity what we have come to accept in this country. And Bob Breeden says, day 23, only 203 more weeks to go. 203 weeks to go. That's where we are in this country.
I do feel like the gaslighting will be somewhat tempered at some point. Not that we'll just come to accept it, but we'll just wake up knowing that some of this is going to be on our freaking timeline, and we won't be as da-da-da. But what I do worry is the normalization of it, and how many people that aren't as engaged as you and I and the Sharpies and other like, and they'll just all just yield to it, and that'll be like the overall goal that they're trying to get. People just get used to it, and there'll be less and less pushback as the presidency goes on. That's my main concern, because you can only fight against something so long before your arms get tired. And I wonder about that.
I have a slightly different take on it. On Fox News this week, they were talking about the cost of eggs. And their own commentators, not like Jessica Tarlov, who's like the only sane voice on Fox
I love
News
her.
right there. No, Jessica Tarlov is amazing. This was it was Maria Bartiromo with her 6 bottles of wine a day self, and they were talking about the price of goods and the price of eggs. And this guy was saying the wholesale price of a dozen white eggs was $8. So the retail price is $11, $12, $13, $14 in the low teens is what he was saying. And how ridiculous that was. It's the highest price for eggs ever. People know that. People walk into a store and you go to the egg section and it's like scattershot. You don't know if it's going to be any eggs there. And the eggs that are there, and this is California especially, $10, $11, $12 for a dollar an egg. Like, we went to restaurants. There were restaurants this last weekend where if you ordered an egg, there was a $1.50 upcharge on your meal.
I've seen
because
that.
of the cost of eggs. And so it's like, when people start to feel that, especially people who, when he turned off the spigot of not only USAID, because USAID, those farm subsidies for that food that was then sent out to other countries, those farmers depended on that.
Gone.
That wasn't capitalism. That was quote unquote socialism, small s socialism. But that was the government supporting farmers to give them a subsidy to produce food so that they didn't have wasted land going fallow. Produce the food, we'll figure out a way to use it. And we use it as soft power in foreign aid to keep, give opportunities for mothers in other countries to feed their kids and so da. We're backing off all of that. And who's waiting?
Yeah.
China.
And to your point,
if they don't want, if you can't trust the United States anymore, look, we'll build these bridges for you. We'll build these roads for you. We'll help you get your infrastructure together. We're happy to do it. We're China, like us.
And that's a part of the FAFO that's happening in the red states right now, to your point, the whole farmers. There's so much trade instability as a result of all these things that are being cut right now. No idea if people are going to make good on these contracts that they have dwindling. They're losing it. And freaking Alabama, remember Katie Britt, the lady who gave the response to one of the State of the Unions? She's crying right now because of the reduced funding in NIH. The University of Alabama is like the main source of employment in that state. And without that, no jobs. There's a county in Tennessee right now that are crying because, they pretty much the leader in making these pennies that all of a sudden he wants to do away with.
Yep.
So all of this is like, it's not just the blue states. All these states that we subsidize, these blue, these huge California, these little red states, they're losing it. So I guess to your point, you're right. Yeah.
Well, he better pray that the mills that are making paper straws right now can be easily retrofitted to start making plastic straws again.
Yeah.
There are consequences to all of this stuff. And Katie Britt sat there with her clenched teeth and talked about how desperate and scared everybody. You got ma'am. And listen, the penny thing is not new. People have been talking about getting rid of pennies for more than a decade. Just from rising costs and when was the last time you were able to use a penny for anything other than leaving it in the 7-Eleven leave a penny thing? It's not a thing that happens. Most of us are using cards. Most of us are using our phones to clink and do the little thing. Change is not a thing. Paper bills, sure. But most of us, unless you're trying to get a snack at a hospital, and even a lot of snack vendors now will take dollar bills because it's hard to find a snack that's 25. So what snack are you getting for 25 cents these days? Everything's over $1. So it's not a horrible notion. Nickels, by the way, cost more than 5 cents to make as well. But to your point, for the people who make them things,
That's their lifeline.
that's their job.
Yeah.
And if you were the penny, we have these different mints. I was a bit of a numismatist when I was a kid, and they had the different little initials, so you knew where your coin was actually minted and all that sort of stuff. The different places throughout the country where these things were done. And yeah, if you're about to shut the penny factory down, what y'all gonna make? And not for the least of which reasons, what are you going to use in the machines that flatten the pennies at Disneyland? What you going to use to take over your little 50-cent souvenirs, 51 cents,
yeah.
2 quarters and a penny, and you do the little crank, and then you got Mickey Mouse on a flat penny. What you gonna do?
Yeah. So it's like they paint these black faces over these issues, knowing full well that they go well beyond, having us at the forefront of these DEI things. This meant for us, we were at the lower rung of even benefiting from anything that was included DEI. So this is like this education that people are finding out in such a record number of times. This is like only the 5th week of his presidency, and people are like, wait, what the hell did we do?
Well, the funniest thing to me is these white female influencers. Oh. There was one blonde woman whose husband is a Brit, so presumably white, who didn't get a COVID vaccine. And he's been trying to go through the process of getting his paperwork together, blah, 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 but he never got the COVID vaccine. And so therefore, that piece of his application was incomplete. And because it was incomplete, they were like, well, why haven't you gotten the vaccine? He's been deported.
Yeah.
And she thinks that's crazy. And it's like, ma'am, they like literally told you. It takes 15 minutes. The shot is free.
Yeah.
It's like, and you're done. But you'd rather your man be sent back to old London town. That's fine. Do it. And another one who sat there talking about, hey, DEI is over. And then it's a jump cut and it's like, so I just found out that my position is being phased out because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And maybe that's that window that they have because, people been mentioning they sure are doing things so fast and quickly. Maybe that's the window that they're up against, people beginning to realize just how much they voted against their own interest. Maybe they're trying to get it all done before they're like, wait a minute. There's this whole huge portion of this country that's all of a sudden just trying to I don't know what they could do at this point, but I just don't get it. I don't, but I'm not at the top of the building watching the.
I didn't know the leopard would eat my face. Oh, I didn't know the leopard would eat my face.
I love how you go into your little Baptist bump when you do that. Aren't you Catholic? Because I can get a little bump.
I was raised Catholic, but I went to FAMU, and in FAMU, I sang in the concert choir.
Oh, okay.
We had to do a tour, so we were at Kojic churches.
That's me. I'm church, right.
Right. So I mean, I was on the 1 and the 3, and then I segued into the 2 and the 4.
2 and the 4.
2 and the 4.
I appreciate it because I don't mind a good bump.
Yeah, and it's funny. My frat brother Mark Lamont Hill was giving a presentation at Loyola Marymount this past week, and that kind of talked up. We were singing the Black National Anthem, and he made us sing all 3 verses.
Oh,
and so it was me and one of my other frat brothers. We were at the very front, and most of us can get through the first verse with no problem.
Yeah, and
he was up there. But he would, how sometimes when you're at church, right before you need to sing the next thing you sing, the choir leader will say, lift every voice. And then it's lift every voice and singing. Till earth and heaven. Till earth and heaven ring, right? He got to the second verse and he said the very first words of the second verse and then didn't say any more words. It's like, bro.
He just left out a God of our weary.
Well, right. And then it's like, okay, God of our weary years, what's years and tears? Silent tears, God of our silent tears. The God who has thus far brought us on our way. And so I'm sitting, it's me in frat, and we're like, I'm looking at him because he's actually a minister. And I'm like, I'm kind of looking at your lips because I know the song, I know the rhymes. I just between the second and third verse, I kind of get some of the some of the parts confused. And we made it all the way through, and some of the ladies were like, "At least y'all do it."
It's an overall culture thing. We all fail at
Black
that.
History Month, you know, you can't clown it. So it was inspiring to hear, because I don't think people appreciate Brother Hill enough. He does his Al Jazeera show, he has his podcast, but unless you have heard him actually speak on a topic, you don't recognize the full scope and breadth of his intellectual rigor. And so if you do have a chance to hear Mark Lamont Hill speak, trust me, it's worth the cost of admission, because he is an absolute.
I check out his podcast when I can. I really do. He has some really good insight. I love his guests, and he doesn't mind getting he'll bring people with an opposing view on his show.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll just go at it.
He doesn't mind going back at you, but when he is allowed to just kind of fully express what he wants to say, kind of in a TED Talk fashion, you really get a sense of the depth of his intellect. And so, I mean, I knew it. I had worked with him on HuffPost for about a year. We did several segments together, and he was always a great host. I was the guest. But if you have a chance, really outstanding brother. And it was an excellent presentation on Black History Month. That said, what we're facing in this country is a crisis of definition. And a movie that is opening today is set to challenge yet again our perceptions about what is and isn't America. And that is Captain America: Brave New World. It is the formal big screen debut of Anthony Mackie, who was handed the mantle of Captain America by Steve Rogers at the end of Endgame. And he kind of addressed it. He was still Falcon in the Disney Plus series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And now he's got his full Wakanda vibranium wings, and he's got the shield, and he can throw the shield now, and he's doing all this stuff. And it really is a movie that is going to tie up a lot of loose ends, and also kind of serve as a touch point as we segue into these next few films, which the next film is Thunderbolts, which is a bit more grounded, like this movie is, to the extent that most of the protagonists don't really have powers, not superpowers, except for the character of Sentry, who is simultaneously the most powerful superhero in the movie, but also the antagonist in the movie. Because if you know anything about Sentry, or you don't know anything about Sentry, he is basically a Superman level power scale character. But his problem is that he has an alternate personality that is equally powerful, called the Void, which is almost pure evil. And so he's kind of doing double duty in that. And then we close out the Marvel sequence this year with Fantastic Four in July, which is, of course, big superheroes and the purported emergence of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. So after we wrap today, I am going to see Captain America: Brave New World. Is that something that you're interested in seeing, Jermaine?
Not so much, but I probably will, just to say that I'm a part of the hype, just because I don't like to be left out. But I will add to boot that Lamar did the title song for it, so he's having the best Black History Month ever.
I mean,
with Grammys, with the freaking Super Bowl, and now the title track to Brave New. I mean, come on.
Well,
can you wish for more?
You can't. And I was saying, as I was watching the performance, I was like, I don't think I have ever paid to see a rap artist perform. I have been at concerts where rap artists perform, but I have never paid to go, never paid to see Busta Rhymes, never paid to see Common, never paid to see like Tribe Called Quest. And I would have, but I just never went. I was the Prince guy. You know, I saw Prince in high school on the Purple Rain tour. You know, I've been fortunate enough to see Prince twice. But it just wasn't my thing. And now, seeing what he did just for the Super Bowl, I'm convinced.
Yeah.
I want to be at the K-Dot show.
Yeah.
I just do. And I thought more than anything, it was an amazing commercial for his upcoming statement. And
Yeah.
SZA, listen. First of all, SZA was fine as hell, but she also sang her entire voice out live because she made sure when she was singing All the Stars, when she made sure that she sang it differently than on the record, so you knew. And yes,
I
please, folks.
watched her. That was live because I was
Oh
like,
no,
this
that was
girl is
liver
really
than
singing.
live.
Yeah.
Oh no, she was amazing. And to Anthony's point, please go see it to support Anthony Mackie. The pre-sales weren't tracking or indexing as high, although some industry folks were saying, but it kind of makes sense because it's a more mature, it's an older take. You've got the president who's turning into the Hulk. It's more of an espionage like Winter Soldier as opposed to like just a superhero blockbuster. So it remains to be seen. Also, for those of you who don't know, if you didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this movie reintroduces a character that was introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier of Isaiah Bradley, who was one of the original test subjects that got the super soldier serum before it was tried on Steve Rogers. So basically, big surprise, when they were doing the super soldier protocols and they were trying to develop the serum, just like in the Tuskegee experiments, they used black soldiers as guinea pigs. And most of the black soldiers died. Now, this is a story that didn't get produced or written until the 2000s, but it's Red, Black, and Blue, I think is the arc. It's a mini-series arc, and it tells the story of Isaiah Bradley. So he actually was the first soldier on which the super soldier serum worked. And unlike Steve Rogers, he wasn't frozen, but he aged slower because of the way that the super soldier serum works. So he still has most of his powers. And he ended up violating orders and was imprisoned because of it. And because he was the only one who was whose body was substantive enough to take the effects of the serum without going crazy, they were doing all these experiments on him. And then he had a son, and the son inherited the powers. And now he has a grandson, and the grandson actually is a member of the Young Avengers as a character named Patriot, who I don't think has super soldier related powers, but he brands himself along the lines of his grandfather. And so if you want to see Carl Lumley,
you could be speaking a third right now.
Well, if you want to support Anthony Mackie and Carl Lumley, because Carl Lumley plays Isaiah Bradley, please go see Brave New World.
Carl Lumley's an amazing actor, people.
He is an amazing actor and had his superhero roots, by the way, in a TV show called Mantis that I think only lasted one season.
Yes, he did.
But Carl Lumley is an amazing actor. He was amazing as Isaiah Bradley, and he actually has a pretty important arc in this movie. You've probably seen it in the trailers already. So if you have a chance, please go out and support it. Also, out this week on Video On Demand is One of Them Days, which features the super fine SZA and also the super talented Kiki Palmer. And Issa Rae's, we've talked about this on the show, Issa Rae's kind of homage to Friday, but a female inspired Friday. That is out on Video On Demand. So if you didn't get a chance to support it in the theater, please do support it on Video On Demand, and also support Lupita Nyong'o's absolutely incredible animated feature, The Wild Robot. Again, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. So worth seeing. A very, 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 very good movie. Heart-rending. Absolutely emotionally engaging. I always love this part of the show because I am a bit of a pop culture nerd. And so to be able to talk about some outstanding films. Nickel Boys, by the way, the director of Nickel Boys won the DGA's First Time Director Award.
Black man, first time winning.
Black man, right. And so support Nickel Boys, also available on Video On Demand. There's so much content out there that is telling our stories in a respectful and meaningful way. And so please do support that. Watch the I Will Survive story on BET Plus, starring my frat, Lance Gross. Just support our stuff, people. If support other people's stuff, please support our stuff. And I believe, I think I got a notification that it arrived today. There is a black clothing manufacturer who is making these LA hats where the LA is inverted, so she used it to spell Altadena
Oh,
on.
okay.
And so she's giving the proceeds of those homes to support those that lost their homes in the Altadena fires. And so I hope to be wearing that hat next week. So there's so many opportunities. We talked about
Right.
the different sites that you can use to buy black. Jermaine, what do you want to say about?
No, I'm just saying that this week especially, and it was an extra effort, but I looked for ways to buy products that I normally would buy from, mainstream. I would go to their websites and buy like a black soap coming from this purveyor in Atlanta this week, that along with some moisturizer and my soursop bitters. I could have got it from someone else, but I chose to get it from them.
Right.
So I'm just having to make that extra effort because it's not convenient. I will admit to that. But because of where we are politically and socially and even economically, it's going to take that. And those people even sent me a little thank you in an email saying we really appreciate it. So you can feel it sometimes immediately when you do things like that. So I would just, urge you guys just to take that extra effort to look for those products that aren't always, showcased on those mainstream platforms, and try to make the difference in that small kind of way, because it really makes a major difference. It does.
Well, and there's lots of things, especially in the self-care space, that you should be supporting Black producers anyway, because you know that they are being intentional about your skin and using products that are non-comedogenic and using products that are designed, optimized, perhaps for Black skin, Black hair. And, I would say give a little grace. Whenever you're buying anything off the internet, sometimes shipping can be a challenge. But if you are dealing with a company that is now receiving all this additional energy because of be aware that their supply chain might not have been set up for a huge influx. So if they are communicating with you and letting you know that your shipment might be a little late, give them some grace, use the products, reorder the products. Some of these people have situations where you can set up a subscription. So once you get it sorted, you don't have to think about buying it. You know how fast you use soap, you know how fast you use face creams or whatever. And so you can, put it on a subscription and then it keeps going. And to Jermaine's point, it is so important for us to support these vendors directly instead of counting on them to be supported through Amazon or through Target or through all of that. So I just want to make sure that we are being sensitive to the sorts of things that can give us everything that we need, and try to support these businesses who need our support now more than ever before.
I've enjoyed today's show with you, Tom.
I think it's been another great show. And listen, folks, Joy is going to be back with us next week. We cannot wait for the return of the wonderful Joy Stevens, who is getting some much deserved rest away from the show, celebrating another trip around the sun, as the young folks say. I don't know what Happy Born Day means. I don't know what the differentiation is. Somebody in the chat,
that went over my head.
Yeah, if you have an explanation for that, tell me why Born Day is better than birthday. I guess people are saying, I guess it's a past tense versus, celebrating the day of my birth, which is my birthday, as opposed to you're not born today, you were born back then, and so it's born. That is too hotep for me. I'm not singing Happy Born Day to you. We gonna sing what we gonna sing. If it's good enough for Stevie, it's good enough for me.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, I'm not saying Happy Born Day to you. Happy Born Day. No, I'm not. No, it doesn't roll out the same way.
No, it doesn't.
Not Happy Solar Return, my king.
Yeah, no.
Happy birthday.
That's all good on social media.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's very, skibbity.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Super Sharpies, 54 years, Anthony. Woo, woo.
Yay, Anthony. Thanks for the positive.
Yeah. Drop a smiley face in the chat if you were upset when AARP got on you and sent you your first mail.
At 48, they started coming after me.
Listen,
48.
I was salty as hell. And when I moved into the last box, because you know most of them boxes they don't go above 65. It's like you get 55 to 65, and then it's 65 plus. When I moved into that box before the 65 plus, I was angry.
Got
I was
me
like, you
2
need to
years early.
expand. You need to expand the 35 to 56. That's what how far that box needs to go. You know?
Yeah.
I am
Because we
not
don't look
old.
like it.
No, we sure don't. I was
We
I was
don't.
out. I was outside. I was outside
Yeah.
this weekend. And it was at the Mark Lamont Hill thing. So in this week. And I had my little stuff on, and I was talking to the people at LMU and some of the staff persons and everything. And I said, I mean, I pledged in 89. I probably pledged before all of these students were even born.
Wow.
And they were like, well, damn, I don't believe it. And I said, yes, come on, more, more, please.
Let me tell you about those days.
Yeah. Back in the days, we had to walk to the moon.
I run across a little, he's not but he's fresh. He's at my gym, and he calls me old school every time he sees me. And I'm like, God, that hurts a little bit. But I guess spring 93 was a long time ago. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, I mean, 32 years ago.
Hey, what's up, old school? Old school? Right. I'm like,
listen. You know, I have often said, I'm not the type of person to refer to myself as old school, because throughout most of my fraternal life, I was always in the presence of people who were older in the bond than me. But these days, there's any number of situations where I find myself around people who are so much younger than me that there's no conception in which I couldn't be considered old school. I mean, I'm a month out from 36 years. And so that's a lot of time in the frat, especially a lot of time in the frat to have worked consistently in the frat.
And I'm meeting a lot of grad brothers too that are my age. Like I just met a grad brother recently crossed. You know, he's a Baldwin Hills alpha, and he just recently crossed. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's older than me. So there's there's so many dimensions to that too. So you know, I take it in stride. It's what it is.
It is what it is. And this show has been what it has been. And so I will say thank you, Sharpies. Thank you for sticking with us. We want you to invite a friend. If everybody who is on the podcast right now invites a friend to next week's show for the triumphant return of the incredibly talented, intelligent, and brilliant Joy Stevens, we will have even more folks watching the show. We love that you all have embraced the YouTube platform. We invite you to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share with all of your friends. And we will see you next week, because I am Tom Cunningham.
I'm Jermaine Taylor.
And this is Steel Sharpens Steel. Goodbye, everybody.